everybody, and welcome back to the show. The Atheist Experience is live. March 9th, 2003. I'm your host, Martin Wagner, with Perrien, my co-host as always.
Good afternoon.
We are sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. ACA holds weekly meetings every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. at Hot Jumbo Bagels, located downtown at 307 West 5th Street, except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series in the Mayor Room of the Austin History Center at 9th and Guadalupe. Our next lecture will be April the 6th, and our speaker will be, I think it's the 6th.
Yes, it is, April 6th.
That's right, and our speaker will be Matthew Uliana,
Yep.
PhD. I understand that he is a group member, and
Yes.
I haven't met him. But his topic, should be interesting, geological evidence for biblical and other myths. That should be pretty neat, so I'll be sure and be there for that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
And the month after that, May the 4th lecture, our speaker will be another ACA member, Don Baker, and he'll speak on the implications of viewing Christianity as a meme. So that, again, should be pretty cool.
We're just so on top of it.
Very much so, yeah. This is,
Normally, we don't know
who the speakers like 2 days before the thing, and now we've got them 2 months in advance. So, all right, we're finally getting all our ducks in a row here. All right, so and the new issue of the Atheist newsletter, expertly edited by Joe Ford, is cool.
New.
Awesome. All right, so. Other ACA events include Godless Gamers, which is Monday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. at the home of wrestler and Virginia Glasser, and ACA Happy Hour, which takes place at Antonio's Tex-Mex near the intersection of Highway 183 and I-35, and that's Thursday evening, starting about 7:30 p.m. People trickle in all evening, so see anyone at first, just hang loose. People will turn up. Apparently, someone brings a sign identifying who we are, so that's how that works. All right, and directions to Antonio's, by the way, can be found on our website on the meetings page. So that's where you can find that. Okay, the nonprofits, which it was for a while, for a year, our weekly internet radio show, and still on hiatus, can be heard on our website on the radio page. You can download MP3s from about the last dozen or so episodes of the show. It's hosted by Jeff D., Russell Glasser, Vic Farrow. It's a regular rotating gang of guys. Very good show. Still no plans, at least no announcement as to when they plan to bring it back. Live, used to be Saturday afternoons at atheistnetwork.com, but I'm sure when they're ready, they'll tell us. But for the time being, go to you can visit our radio show page on the website, ACA website, at atheist-community.org, and listen to the last dozen or so episodes that they did. And finally, University Atheists and Agnostics, a registered UT student organization put together by our very own Charles Tabaney, is enjoying, again, a very fruitful and successful second semester. And they have meetings every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. in Rainey Hall, room 3.102A. If you are a UT student or faculty member, the email address is right there on the screen there for you to get more information about the group, uaa@mail.utexas.edu. So, all right. I think, okay. And a couple of upcoming events on Easter weekend. Apparently the Christians have a holiday that weekend. And everything is shut down, but there are two major conventions. Chicago, Illinois, the 29th Annual American Atheist Convention is taking place. We're not affiliated. ACA is not affiliated with American Atheists. And again, their guests will include a guy named Trevor Pinnock, who is the author of a book called Tower of Babel. Excellent refutation of intelligent design creationism.
Yes.
And Daryl Lambert, the Atheist Eagle Scout, who, despite 10 years and 37 marriages, was forced out of the group when it was discovered that he didn't have an invisible friend. So those will be the guests there. And that same weekend in Tampa, Florida, is the 9th Annual Atheist Alliance Convention. And their guests include James Randi, great, and Richard Dawkins.
That would be one
foremost
good meeting to go to.
Yeah. So those of you who feel like flying that weekend, there's stuff to do. Wish I could.
Yes.
It'd be a toss-up. I'd probably swing down to Florida if it were my druthers, just to hear Dawkins. That would be. And to hear James Randi. He's fun.
Yeah.
See him do some of his stuff. So, all right. So I think that's pretty much it for announcements. Only to say that, you can visit our lovely website at atheist-community.org if you want to find out more info about us. All kind of stuff up there. And good to be back on the program.
Yes.
So
Missed last week.
yeah, I did, and I won't be here next week either. So this is kind of a weird, erratic April for me.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Or March.
See, that's exactly how erratic it is. I don't even remember what month it is. It is. Boy, March.
We are on top of things. We said that before.
Okay, Martin Wagner, take 2. Okay, so that's announcements. I suppose this is a live call-in show. However, few changes this week. Austin Community Access here has gotten some new equipment.
Yay!
Which is usually cause for rejoicing, but
Unfortunately, the new manuals, the new equipment are MIA.
So they got this equipment with no manuals, eh?
Well,
That's
not in our control room. We don't have
lovely.
manuals,
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, a little bit of trickiness with the telephones. There's a whole new telephone system. Notice we don't have a box here on the table anymore. That's part of it. So we're going to have to rely on the control room. Tell us who's calling us, and there's some weird sound effects issues when we were setting up, but we think we've resolved them. So got to take calls, but just let you know, if you sound like you're underwater, don't worry. We'll answer you all the same, okay? But this is a live call-in television show. Every week we answer questions from fine folks like you, and the calls always get backed up. We never get to all the calls, which is why we have a feature on the show for viewer emails. And if you want to email us a question every week, we'll look at those and pick a couple of really interesting ones and read them on the air. And that address is tv@atheist-community.org. tv@atheist-community.org. That's viewer email questions. And sometimes we can get lots of fun. So, okay. I think that's it for announcements.
Okay.
You sounded like you had one.
No, absolutely not.
You don't.
I just have news.
All right.
Lots of it.
Well, let's hit it.
Okay.
What's happening in the world?
All right. First big one that happened over the last week is we've all heard that sometimes state legislatures and whatnot, they open up with a prayer. And occasionally we've heard that they have let other people come in and do their prayers instead of having, the typical, Protestant, priest or whatever. They let somebody else come in. Well, in Olympia, Washington, they had somebody come in who delivered a Muslim prayer. And so what do wholesome Americans do when they decide to have somebody that they don't necessarily agree with come in and deliver a religious prayer? They get up and walk out. So two lawmakers left the floor of the Washington House of Representatives during a prayer by a Muslim religious leader this week, citing patriotism and lack of interest. Republicans Louis McMahon of Gig Harbor and Cary Condota of East Wenatchee walked.
So this is in Washington State.
Yes, Washington State.
Okay.
Yeah. Walked to the back of the chamber during Monday's invocation by Mohammed Joban, Imam of the Islamic Center of Olympia. McMahon said she did not oppose to having a Muslim deliver the prayer, but left because the religion is the focal point of the hate America sentiment in the world. It's an issue of patriotism, said. Even though the mainstream Islamic religion doesn't profess to hate America, nonetheless it spawns the group that hates America.
Well, see, here's the thing. Okay, yes, they should have gotten up and walked out. Okay. But they did it for the wrong reasons. It's not a patriotism issue, okay? It's a separation of church and state issue.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be opening state legislatures with
any
prayers, whether they are Muslim, Christian, Wiccan,
Buddhist, whatever.
Some kind of, a bizarre pagan animal, lamb sacrifice. Yeah, I mean, you
sacrifice the goat with a
it's just there's not the place for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And here are I don't know if these men have been identified as are the two legislators that walked out. Did they say they were Christian or?
It doesn't say. I didn't see exactly.
Okay, but regardless, right? Okay,
probably not Muslim.
Okay, but this is an opportunity for Christians to understand what it is when non-Christians are constantly faced with Christianity being crammed down their throat in an official capacity, and how awkward and uncomfortable it makes you feel. Now, their reasoning is actually kind of skewed. Okay, they don't seem to have a problem with the idea of religious practice going on at legislatures. They just don't like this one because they identify it as being part of
something that spawns American hate.
It's our it's our enemy's religion, and therefore it's bad.
Yeah.
The people who blew us up practice this faith, so we should acknowledge. But that's the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Just in general principle, right? I mean, I think all the legislators should have gotten up and walked out.
Yeah.
You just
on all the prayers.
Yeah.
Not just this one.
Yeah.
All of them.
I mean, let them pray over breakfast at home before they come to work if it's that important. So.
Yeah. So they have since apologized for this.
Who has?
The two people that walked out. They have apologized for walking out. So.
Okay. Well, whatever. I mean,
I just saw it in the news yesterday. It was a really quick blurb. So, but.
Well, they were in the right, but again,
because again, they're calling it a patriotism issue. As in, you can't be Muslim and a patriot or something like that.
Okay.
And so I can understand that.
Okay, so in that regard, I think they should apologize.
Yeah.
But they weren't wrong for walking out. They just walked out for the wrong reason. It's weird.
Get the right reasons next time. So.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so that's enough of that.
Our country, I swear, I mean...
Yay.
We're constantly confronted with evidence. Okay, that having religion all over the place causes problems. Okay, it just causes hassles.
It does.
It causes these hassles that just don't need to exist.
Yeah.
It's constantly happening. But it's people, instead of seeing it that way, they're just like, they just want to keep up with this whole, I can pee farther than you can thing where their religion is concerned, and it's all, my God can beat up your God. It's just childish.
Okay. Well, next one. This is a story that you actually called in on last week.
Yeah.
The human cloning ban. This story was actually from February 28th. It's not too long ago. The U.S. House of Representatives overwhelmingly voted to ban all forms of human cloning on Thursday, roundly defeating a rival bill that would allow the use of cloning technology for medical research. The House has passed a similar bill in 2001, but the Senate failed to pass any legislation on cloning. The issue once again lies in the Senate, where similar rival bills await passage. The Human Cloning Prohibition Act of 2003, sponsored by Florida Republican Dave Weldon and Michigan Democrat Bart Stupak, passed by a vote of 241, blah, 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 241 to 151, 155. It would ban all human cloning, including cloning to create pregnancy for medical research. It would also make it a crime to receive or import a cloned human embryo or any product derived from a human cloned embryo, with fines of $1 million and 10 years in prison.
Now, this is just insane.
So not only are we not able to research in this country at all, but now we can't import anybody who researches.
Okay. Did they list a single valid scientific reason why they made that decision?
They have absolutely nothing in here.
Yeah.
Because apparently there probably isn't one.
Okay. So now here's the thing, right? Now I'm a complete proponent of human cloning or any form of scientific research. I don't have a problem with it. Although right now, I do think that reproductive human cloning would be unfaithful simply because we know for a fact from animal experiments that it's
there
not
are problems.
A lot of problems right now. And in fact, they just a few weeks ago had to put Dolly the sheep down.
Yeah.
She has some arthritic condition.
Yeah.
Which they still aren't sure can be attributed to the fact that she was cloned.
Yeah.
But apparently it was unusual she was like 6 years old. It's unusual for a sheep her age.
They basically said that throughout the Dolly's life, she was aging quicker than typically would have been expected.
Right. Well, that's not good. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, most sheep before 6 years old are turned into veal cutlets, but that's it's neither here nor there. But still, we know that reproductive human cloning right now isn't ready.
Yeah.
And besides, why do it? I mean, it's more fun to do it the old-fashioned way, for one thing. And if there is a sterility problem, with a parent, there's still plenty of.
There are still lots and lots of kids out there for adoption.
Exactly. So so there are. So parents who want to have a child and can't, naturally aren't exactly left in the lurch. But therapeutic cloning is very important because wow. Okay.
Okay, that sounds better.
Yeah, they're dealing with again, new equipment, so we're dealing with the sound stuff. The thing with therapeutic cloning is that it has already been shown that, embryonic stem cells have already been successfully grown into other tissues.
Yes.
Heart tissue, brain tissues,
Yeah.
Okay, and so this isn't just pie in the sky sci-fi stuff, right? I mean, there's evidence that there are definite, extremely promising lines of research to be done with this. And a lot of these embryos that they're talking about that they're using for these embryonic stem cells are embryos that are not, these aren't people. They're not even about to become people. They're already, stuff that's going to be thrown away anyway.
Yeah.
The overwhelming majority in nature of like fertilized ova.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In a woman, it doesn't attach to the uterine wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's already, the majority of abortions that exist in the world are natural anyway. Yeah. So that's not really a concern. But the problem, what really makes this incredibly appalling is that what happened the week prior to this human cloning ban, when we had that highly publicized, terrible incident of that teenage girl from Mexico who had a botched transplant that killed her, basically.
Yeah.
And, again, if
this is exactly the kind of research that would prevent that from happening.
Yeah, exactly. If the technology existed to where they could use therapeutic cloning to essentially have taken her own DNA and grown her new organs that she couldn't possibly reject, that wouldn't be an issue. Now, granted, that technology doesn't exist right now.
Of course.
But if all research is now prohibited, it'll never exist.
It'll never exist.
So I guess the Republican Party is just thinking, oh, well, it was God's will that happened to her, so we can't interfere with that.
Yeah.
It's just asinine.
Whatever.
Again, there's just no scientific validity going on in their decision there. It's all this
it's a lot of fear
chicken
tactic.
little fear.
Yeah.
Oh, no, and they have this
running with some strange assumption that to get a new kidney, you have to grow an entire human being and then kill it and get out its kidney and give it to somebody. I mean, that's completely
that kind of
ridiculous.
Thing. And, of course, there are all these other, again, asinine fears about human cloning, like, we'll have these armies of Hitlers and armies of Osama bin Ladens. It's like, look, even if you took Osama bin Laden and cloned him perfectly, he wouldn't be the same guy, right?
Yeah.
He wouldn't develop...
If you raise him in Iowa, chances are he's not going to do the same thing.
You would not necessarily develop exactly the same personality. I mean, but I've seen too many sci-fi movies where cloning is depicted as being just like Xeroxing yourself.
Yeah.
Which isn't what it is.
Yeah.
So again, it's the people who are ignorant of what the scientific research is actually all about, making decisions. And another irony here, is just keeps coming and coming, is that I've heard some conservative opponents of biotechnology.
Okay.
One of their criticisms is that, if this biotechnology exists, it'll be all unfair and stuff because
only the rich will have it.
Exactly. But now what have they done with this legislation?
Yeah.
It's the same thing that was the problem before, RU486 got available over here. It's like rich people, like, somebody who's very wealthy and old, say, like if a cure for Alzheimer's existed in France or in England or in India,
it doesn't cost that much to
as
go
a result
to
of therapeutic cloning research, Charlton Heston could fly over there and get a cure for Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Okay. But Joe Blow, whose grandfather is deteriorating and it's all he can do to, pay his own bills with with our economy.
Yeah.
They're not going to get it.
Yeah.
So right there, they've sort of fulfilled their own prophecy, as it were.
Heaven forbid all the rich people get all this advanced new technology. We'll make sure nobody gets it.
Well, the only light at the end of this tunnel is the fact that at some point in history, the Bush administration is going to come to an end. Okay? Hopefully it'll be next year, right? If not 2004, it'll be 2008. And
not to be political or anything.
At some point, we'll get a progressive thinking, well-educated president in the White House who will overturn this stuff. Because, I'm all for life extension technologies and stuff like that. But we're never going to get these things if, you don't even allow the research.
Yeah.
But listen to the rantings of all of the guys who are anti-life extension technology, Leon Cass is a big Bush administration guy. Okay. Who has come out and said more or less publicly that his main objection to life extension technologies, and he's not uneducated in the field. He knows a lot about telomerase therapy and the whole idea of cloning for the purposes of, his main objection is that, if this exists, if people are no longer afraid of dying, they won't need God anymore. That's his main concern. The idea that people will, instead of taking responsibility, people will be taking responsibility for their own health and their own futures and not just falling back and relying on supernatural authority. And if you get stricken with horrible brain cancer, I guess it's just God's will. So you just pray.
Yeah.
That's what guys like Leon Katz and George W. Bush want you to do.
Yeah.
Because
obviously Bush is out there applauding this one.
Sure.
And he said that he would veto anything less than a total ban on human cloning.
Right. Well.
So he didn't have to veto anything, unfortunately.
And again, with the religious right kind of dominating our government right now, there's not likely to be an override of the veto. But again, it's still early days yet, and when Bush is out of there, hopefully in 2004, if the war, I hope the war, the war that will happen in Iraq.
Yeah.
Probably, even if it doesn't go badly, the fact is, I think that what we are seeing with the George W. Bush presidency, a repeat of his dad's presidency, where you have, he has these big military victories, but the economy's in the toilet. Yeah. And in the end, that's what really matters to the American people. So
yeah.
So if in November 2004 someone else gets in the White House, maybe
this will change.
Maybe humanity will have, in this country, will have a future. Otherwise, again, you get rich Americans traveling to get treatments for diseases.
It will be one of the things that contributes to the downfall of America as a big superpower.
Yeah, of our country becoming this sort of scientific and intellectual third world country.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which is really kind of...
If you really want the intelligent people, you go overseas. So...
Well, no, come on. There's, again...
In the future.
lots of intelligent Americans who are stifled. Well, it's true that our best scientists are hop into airplanes.
Yeah.
And which is a drag. We're losing people because they're just not allowed to do research. They're not allowed to do research in their field.
Yeah.
So. And when Bush did his initial, remember he made his initial stem cell research announcement?
Okay.
Where he said, he thought he came up with this great compromise. I'm going to disallow any new embryos to be created.
Yeah.
But existing stem cell lines you can use, and he claimed there were like 64 of them.
Yeah.
And actual researchers are going, there's nowhere near that many. There's maybe fewer than a dozen.
Wow.
And now a couple years after he made that announcement, there's still researchers out there, they can't get their hands on this stuff.
Yeah.
They can't find these supposed stem cell lines.
Yeah.
But they're definitely not 64 as he claimed in his little speech. Yeah. So anyway.
Okay, well, that's enough of that. Also, there was news recently about the Pledge of Allegiance, the update on that. Mm-hmm. They basically tossed it back to the court and said, "Look at this again. Try and redecide whether you should be able to say pledge with under God in schools." And they basically threw it back and said, "Okay, well, we agree with our original opinion, which we gave several months ago, and that yes, it's still unconstitutional. However, it was edited a little bit. Originally, what was said is that you can't recite the Pledge of Allegiance in schools because of under God. And also, they had said that by introducing the under God in 54 anyway, that was unconstitutional in the first place. Mm-hmm. In their new revised decision, they don't have the second part in there. They're saying that you can't recite it in the schools because that's unconstitutional, but they withdrew any mention that putting it in there in the first place was unconstitutional. It essentially, what their argument is kind of, it overshot the point.
Well,
of what the case entailed. It was going a bit too far.
But
and I also
don't they have to explain then what their reasoning is for saying it's unconstitutional to require kids to say under God in school? How do they offer up a good justification for it if they don't have as an example the fact that this was introduced, the original pledge was never like this. This was introduced into the pledge in 1954, and to do that in the first place was unconstitutional, and that's why it's unconstitutional now.
Yeah,
I don't see how they can support their argument that it's unconstitutional now.
What they're requiring
if they don't have the history.
What they're requiring kids to do, though, is recite this.
Right.
In any other respect, typically you're not required to. This is being, kids are being coerced to say this, basically, in schools.
Still, though, don't you have to explain?
Well, apparently not.
But because in a situation where it's not coerced, right, and it's not in a state-sponsored school, and someone is choosing to say, indivisible under God, or under God indivisible of his own volition, well, then who cares about the constitutionality of it?
Yeah.
If somebody is doing it like out in the park,
exactly,
in front of a flagpole and by himself and saying, under God indivisible, that becomes a personal free speech matter. But the problem here is the coerced recital in a school, and don't they have to? I guess they don't feel they do, but
Apparently not. I also
It's too bad. One of our crew, Andy Roberts, is like studying law.
Yeah, it's also possible that this may be a good thing, in the sense that if they take that part out, they may have a little bit less argument against the bill in its entirety.
In other words, they
get something smaller through to where you don't have to say it in schools, rather than going for the full-blown under God is not constitutional, have it pulled again.
That would be
a huge unwinnable fight.
Yeah, because the conservatives are going to come after them with howitzers.
Exactly. Exactly. If they just say we don't have to have it required to be said in school, that you might be able to do.
So this is CYA, basically. But that's politics.
Essentially, that's kind of what it sounds like, yeah.
Well, now we haven't heard, and of course what they did also when they stuck with their original decision.
Yes.
When they made that choice, they at the same time though they put off for some time the outright ban. I mean, there'd be like pretty much all up and down the West Coast. It was going to happen like within a week's. The pledge would just have to stop
until they reheard it. They put it off. I think
but now they put that off though, so they're still.
Well, right now I think it's set to kick in like on the 10th.
Oh, okay.
Of this month.
But we haven't heard if the Supreme Court's going to hear this yet.
No.
Okay.
No, I think I saw articles saying that Ashcroft, of course, is going to push for it.
It may have to go that way. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But no, the Supreme Court has not said they're going to take it or anything like that yet.
Okay.
So I don't know if I would like them to or not.
Well, here's the thing. I constantly here's what I've heard the people on conservatives and people on the Christian right say in defense of in their criticism of the Ninth Circuit original decision. Now, I hear them wail about how preposterous and insane a decision it is. I never really hear any good legal or rational explanation as to why they think it's preposterous. All they can come up with is
everybody likes it.
Well, they say that the Supreme Court has already decided that some sort of generic, non-specific, non-sectarian mention of the word God does not constitute an actual endorsement of religion and therefore doesn't pose a constitutional problem. But my thinking is, well, now wait a minute. If this, why is the religious right then so hard behind this if all it's doing is just having God with a small g, and it is this vague, undefined concept of God that can make more or less anybody happy. I don't think that was the original intent in 1954.
Of course not.
When the words under God were introduced into the pledge. That wasn't the intent of the people who had it put in there, which were Christian groups.
Yeah.
And it was not their intent to just say, to introduce into the pledge some bland, small g, generic, ecumenical, trans, faith concept of God that anybody, whether you're a Christian or a Buddhist or Muslim or, well, not Buddhist, but, Muslim or whoever could feel comfortable with. Yeah. So I don't think that was their intent.
It was very specifically a Christian prayer. It was very specifically known that schools would have to say this.
Yeah.
And that was their entire purpose, is make sure that we have kids saying this today.
Yeah. So. And it was all about, it was this big overreaction to the Red Scare. It was this is why we're different than the evil communists, because, we believe in God and they don't. So, so it was Cold War politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is what motivated that. So, but again, if under God were taken out and it were made this, if what the conservatives are arguing is really valid, if they're honest in saying, oh, well, it's just God, it doesn't mean any specific religion, it doesn't really mean anything, it's just God.
Then why not take it out?
Yeah, then why are they bothered by the idea of going back to the pre-1954 version and just saying, one nation indivisible? Yeah. If it's just this bland version of God that doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean their God, and it's so non-specific. Yeah.
So then it should be neither here nor there to them whether under God is in the pledge or not. But clearly it is.
It does matter.
It is something that matters to them.
Yeah.
So I think they're being extremely dishonest.
Yeah.
But, what's new there? All right.
Okay.
Anything else before we hit the phones?
Yeah, well, this one or this one? I'll do both. They're both really quick.
Yeah, why not? Because we have no way of knowing, since we don't have a blinking box on if we have calls lined up or anything.
Yeah.
We don't have names on the board yet. So the number to call us live is 477-2288, 477-2288. Call us up live and talk to us about all kinds of cool stuff. We'll go ahead and get that phone number up on the screen for you. I assume it's the same phone. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we have a different phone system. Okay, same number, though. There it is, right there, 477-2288, to call us up live and
Yeah.
We'll finish up these last two items on the news.
Yes. This one is a religion that we could almost stand behind. This is in Melbourne, Australia. They're going through a terrible drought, no rain. And so what they have done to try and combat this, or at least some people, hundreds of Australian women dance naked at a secluded location amid drought-ravaged farmland.
Crikey.
On Sunday. Organizers from a small town in Oyen in a far northwest Victoria state said up to 500 women danced and chanted in a ceremony inspired by a Nepali drought-breaking tradition. It has been a great day for community connectedness and positive mental health for people in drought-affected areas, and that was one of the reasons behind it, too. Ironically enough, rain fell in the region last week following a rehearsal dance, but farmers needed more in the next few months to let them plant crops. I say we need more people out there dancing.
Well, I do agree that the idea, that this would, if you're in a drought-stricken area, several hundred naked dancing women would improve morale.
It'll definitely change your attitude, yeah.
But, those wacky Australians. Boy, what?
They're always fun.
It's all about the beer. Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, and here's one that was actually handed to me today. This is an advice columnist. Ask Marilyn. Marilyn Savant. And
that can't possibly be her name. Good grief. Marilyn Savant.
True. It's a little bit suspect, shall we say.
It's bogus.
But anyway, a letter that she received.
That sounds like a James Bond character. Yeah. Or something. Oh, well.
So anyway, the letter that she got was, a friend who is an atheist had a medical emergency and was forced to visit the only hospital for miles around, one run by a church. On the wall of her room hung a crucifix. My friend asked her husband to cover it with a cloth. When the nurse, a nun, arrived, she was appalled. Was my friend wrong? Now, in her opinion, your friend was purposely disrespectful to those she expected to come to her aid, and she should be ashamed of herself. I hope that nun removed the cloth, polished the crucifix with it, and handed it back to your friend with a cheery thank you for the inspiration.
Okay, Marilyn, here's where you're going wrong.
Yeah.
First off, I think, personally, understanding that it's a religious hospital, and I'll get into that subject in a minute, but, I think that it was extremely rude and arrogant of this hospital to cram this religious fetish object down this woman's throat as the price of receiving medical treatment. I mean, granted, they're a Christian hospital, okay, but they must know that not every single patient that they ever get is going to be Christian. They're going to get atheist patients. They're going to get Jewish patients. They're going to get patients of other faiths or no faith, and they should be respectful of that. But Christians just aren't. Christians just think that they have this right to cram their religion down your throat whenever they see fit.
Yeah. And
especially in a hospital context where, I had a friend who was in a hospital here in town a couple of years ago. And, she just got this unsolicited visit from a hospital chaplain. Just came in, right? And, this whole thing of having, here are these people who are patients in a hospital. They're vulnerable. They're a captive audience. And so they're not in a position or equipped to deal with just not getting this kind of attention if they don't want it.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, chaplains should be available in hospitals for people who want them.
Of course.
Okay. But, they should understand that an atheist is not going to want some Christian symbol hanging up in their room. And and
granted, I haven't thought about this all as much. I just got this morning. But I would disagree in the sense that if it's a Christian hospital, having it up on the wall, I don't think is a big deal. Now, if somebody comes in there and asks to have it taken down or covers it up, that should be respected.
Well, yeah.
Especially if it's a private room. Now, if you're in a big ward with, 30 other beds and you go try and, rearrange a place for your own specifications, that's a little bit different.
Okay.
But if it's your own private room and you ask to have this stuff removed, I think that they should respect that.
Yeah,
especially in this case. If we can believe the full story here that it was actually an emergency and they had to go to this hospital because it was the only one.
Yeah.
Now, if they have a choice of which hospital to go to and they could have picked a different one, that's a whole different story.
Right.
But if they're forced to go to this one because, of insurance.
But that's what the letter says, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the only hospital.
We have to assume that, with what we're given here.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this hospital doesn't have a right to have crucifixes on its walls.
Of course.
But, if I'm sitting in that room and I'm getting medical treatment and I have to stare at this cross.
Exactly.
Which is, being annoying all the time, and I should have a right to hang a t-shirt over it, so I don't have to look at it, and, they should be just as respectful of the fact that I don't share their faith.
Exactly.
And me, the atheist hanging a towel over the cross so they can't see it isn't, trying to cause deliberate offense to the hospital. They're just not wanting to view something that they don't want to have to look at.
And they're not
what if the hospital had
anything.
a big pornographic picture hanging on the wall? And they said
none of the other patients disagree with it.
Yeah, you could say why I want to turn it around or hang a towel over it. Oh, well, we put that up there for a reason. So if you expect treatment from us, you're going to have to look at that. Well, no, you don't have to look at, you got to look at anything you want to.
Yeah.
I don't see there's anything that says, in order, as the price of receiving medical treatment for an illness, you have to be subjected to any sort of proselytizing that you don't want to be subjected to. And I don't want to have this religious fetish object up on my wall.
Exactly.
So, Marilyn's a bit confused. I don't think she's much of a savant.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard good things about her column. Other people have said that they do read her a lot, and it was good stuff. So maybe a lot of times it is, but in this case,
or maybe those people are
definitely,
just flat wrong.
In this case, I would disagree.
Right. Okay, well, we are told now we have calls lined up on the air, and we're going to start with Juan on line 1. Okay, control room, it's all yours. Hi, you on the air?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for calling.
Let me turn the volume here down.
Yeah. Make sure we don't,
well, good afternoon, guys.
How you doing?
Hello.
I'm really glad to see the program going. I watch it every Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've heard from you many times,
I'm
right?
inclined to participate every Sunday. I try not to.
Well, it's good to have viewers anyway.
Two items that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
First, just in passing, that name that you just came across, Marilyn von Savant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is the name of a regular columnist that's been there for years in the Sunday newspaper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And supposedly she is she has the highest IQ of all Americans.
Yep. It's something like that. She's listed in the Guinness Book of Records.
Questions about math and logic and a bunch of other stuff. Of course, if she has some religious preference, well, that doesn't make her any smarter,
Yeah. The next question on here actually is kind of a weird math question. But yeah, is listed Marilyn von Savant.
Yvonne Savant. That's her name, and she's listed in the Book of World Records.
Yep, she is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records Hall of Fame for highest IQ.
What is it?
It's a real person. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, no, all right.
Oh, yeah. We knew that much.
Well, I don't read parade magazines.
Yeah, it doesn't say what the IQ is. But,
okay, so then what we've learned then is that people who are just really, really sharp at math can still make stupid decisions when it comes to religious intolerance.
Right.
Okay,
absolutely.
fine.
So, but I just wanted to mention that is a real woman.
Oh yeah.
Okay, she's a real woman.
The second item is something that I came across.
So she's the world's
from
smartest
the
lady.
Vatican. They made a statement. The Pope made a statement.
Okay, who did?
A very, very clear statement saying to Bush, if you go in, that is going into Iraq, you go in without God.
So God is on their side now.
Statement. I think the Pope raised the bar in the sense that now it makes it so easy to defeat theists when it comes to the preferences of this invisible man.
Well, yes
Now,
and no,
the
because
Pope is saying, hey, I know what God wants, and you, Bush, don't know. So you go in without God. I mean, that is I laughed quite a bit when I read that statement.
well, sure, yeah. But to me, that's no different than football teams, saying praying to God for their victory or what have you, or
But
at least
this
to the
reveals
old,
another problem. You know how the Catholic Church in America has been having all these problems with pedophiles, and their image is not that good.
Yeah.
right?
So Bush could counter and say, "Hey, wait a second, is God with your pedophiles too, or what?"
Yeah. Well,
Bush, I think, pretty much respects the Pope and that whole religion, doesn't he?
Well, sure he does. I mean, it's interesting, and we may get to this here in a minute. There's this cover story on Newsweek magazine this week all about Bush's religiosity and how he has tried to be, broad-based, at least in terms of accepting the viewpoints of other faiths, even though, he is driven by his own very much fundamentalist. I think, was he? He's Methodist, right? Yes.
I believe so. I'm not positive.
Yeah, he's Methodist.
Okay. Oh, one extra item there. He also added in the statement, the Pope, this is the Pope speaking, saying that God was a neutral observer in human affairs. So this powerful man has nothing to do with what we do here.
Yeah.
He has he doesn't really control what's going on.
Jeez.
So,
so all of a sudden this powerful being has no powers.
Yeah.
He's just an observer.
Yeah, so the Pope's essentially declared him, he's renounced his Catholicism and become a deist.
Wow.
Without, yeah. I'm sure his cardinals were running around like mad when he said that.
Damage control.
Yeah.
Damage control, yeah, because...
This guy's, he's 84, he's got Parkinson's. So he comes out and says, God doesn't really do anything.
Not very politically correct.
Yeah. It's like, that's certainly one hell of a lookout for Catholics around the world. So, God just this neutral observer in human affairs. Then why worship him? Yeah. If he's a neutral observer in human affairs, why worship him? Why pray to him?
Yeah.
If he's a neutral observer in human affairs, why say prayers? Prayers are a direct entreaty to God to do you a favor because you love him so much. But if he's just a neutral if he's just a neutral observer in human affairs, why have a Catholic Church? Shut the damn thing down. Get rid of all the cardinals. Get rid of all the bishops. Get rid of the Pope. Distribute all that money to the people who need it, and turn the Vatican into Disneyland, and there we are.
Yeah, but...
Go home, guys, and God's a neutral observer. He doesn't give a damn about us.
Yeah, but
let's all go up in some nightclubs.
The army of bishops and priests, these are con men. They'd be doing some other con game out there. They'd be dangerous.
Yeah, well, a lot of parents have found that out, haven't they? Yeah.
Well, they're dangerous.
Sorry. I don't mean to look. Not every Catholic priest is a bad guy, right? But still... I can understand what they're worried about, this poor old Pope, right? I mean, and to a certain extent, right? I do kind of have some sympathy for him. Every time I see him trotted out, right? And the poor guy, he's all deflated. I mean, he looks like the deflated balloon when they bring him out. His head's all droopy. He has this poor little hangdog face. His health problems are very pronounced and serious and very obvious, and yet they drag him out to do all these rituals. He can barely talk, and so and he's his brain's going from Parkinson's disease.
And though I didn't read it specifically, but there was some kind of article or thing out there written by the Pope relatively recently that basically indicates that he doesn't plan on leaving anytime. So it's not like it's against his will.
Well, you're a Pope until you die.
Exactly, and he's not exactly disagreeing with this. He's not saying, "My God, I've got to get my nurses out here again and get me dragged out in front of public again."
Well, he's got Parkinson's. He's not aware he's deteriorating. I mean, that's the thing about having Parkinson's.
So
you just kind of deteriorate.
Yeah, so he's kind of happy with the situation. So, but yeah, it's not.
Anyway, guys, well, keep up the good work, and it was nice talking to you again.
Well, thanks very much. That was a rather amusing thing to hear. So we'll see. God is just a neutral observer in human affairs. Okay, let's all go home then. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, that was Juan. Thank you very much for calling. And who's next on our list? Tim is on line 2. We'll just go right to that.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
It's old prophecy, Tim.
Oh, how are you doing, Tim?
Nothing about prophecy today.
Okay.
I wanted to see if you guys had seen Waking Life. I just watched that yesterday, and it was one of the most intellectually traveling films I've ever watched.
I actually have not seen it. I mean, I'm interested in animation. You'd think I would have by now, but I haven't.
Well, you're going to hate it, Martin.
You're going to hate it? No,
yes.
Probably. Well,
it's mainly a movie about the horrors of living your lifestyle of being trapped in an empirical world.
Oh, wow.
Your eyes can't see anything, your ears can't hear anything. I mean, you're blind and you're a handicapped individual in an empirical world. And it's
well, that is the definition of empiricism, not being able to see anything or hear anything. That's definitely what it means to be empirical.
Well, it means you're limited by our eyes are horrible. We can't see hardly any of the...
Yeah, but we have other ways of sensing things.
Okay, now I admit that. Okay, hang on, Tim. Hang on, Tim. Okay, so what is it that you can see with your eyes that I can't see with mine? You obviously have this wonderful non-empirical. Yeah, I guess you have what, some sort of Superman X-ray vision going on. What have you got that I haven't got that I'm missing out on? I'd really like to know, because my horrible, nightmarish, empty life of being empirical. I'd really like to know what it is. That's a
number of things.
Okay.
life experience. You can't see life experience. These are human interactions, relationships. These are things you can't put your hand on. And these are things that humans transmit to each other.
Okay.
That you can't measure. You can't put it in a test tube and quantify it. These are what really makes life. And if you're trapped in this world of, oh, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist, then you're missing the whole crux of human existence.
Yeah, but we know things exist. We know other people exist.
Well, wait a minute.
Interact with them.
Are you trying to imply that I don't have relationships with other people?
I'm saying that you're missing the point of relationships of other people.
And what is, in the opinion, the point?
Well, you kind of really got to watch the movie, because the movie really
you tell me what's you tell
2 hours
me
much better than I can in a 30-second soundbite.
We'll give you more than 30 seconds.
We don't need 30 seconds.
Tell me what you think the point of human relationships is.
It's to grow from each other. There is a intangible connection between all humans, and that you're going to say no, that doesn't exist. But it's what we live for. It's your mom. You don't know why. Your mom's just another overgrown amoeba in your world. Why do you have this intangible connection?
Tim, we hear from some idiots on this show. But, boy, I mean, if there were like a Nobel Prize for idiocy, you would have to take it. You're telling me, first off, screw you if you think my mother's an overgrown amoeba. She's not, okay? She's my mother. Secondly, to say that human relationships are this thing...
That's my entire point.
The human relationships are these things that you can only appreciate if you think that they're based upon some weird, supernatural, indefinable thing.
Who said anything about that? You did.
You did. You said there's some intangible thing that
Intangible does not mean supernatural, Martin. I hate to beg to differ with you. And I didn't say your mom's an overgrown amoeba.
You just
I said if you think your mom's an overgrown amoeba and you're relying on empirical data, that's all she is.
Dude, if you say something to me, if you say I think my mother's an empirical, an overgrown amoeba, then yeah, I'm gonna hear what you say and respond to that. Are you saying that you actually said something different I didn't hear when you just said she was an overgrown amoeba?
I had nothing to do individually with you, Martin. I said if a person in general thinks their mom is an overgrown amoeba, they're not going to respond to that intangible connection that all humans have. Nothing to do with Martin Wagner.
Yeah, well, if you didn't say directly, you implied that because I don't share these beliefs in intangible, which you haven't, by the way, defined what you mean by intangible.
Do you care about your mother more than other humans?
Do I care about my mother more than other humans? I care about her more than a great many other humans, sure.
Than all other humans?
She's my mother. Yes.
And you're saying there's an intangible connection that makes her different than the other.
Well, what do you mean by intangible, Tim? I mean,
it's a very hard thing to define, and it's what humans strive for, is to understand that.
Don't argue for the existence of something, and then when I try to get a definition out of you, say it's hard to define. Define it.
Define what?
Don't give me this Mickey Mouse stuff.
Define what?
Define what you mean by intangible connection. You're saying human relationships are based upon some intangible connection that human beings have, and if you are a person who is an empiricist, you can't experience that. So that is what you have been saying this whole call, correct?
You just contradicted yourself by saying that, yes, your mother is more special than other human beings.
Okay.
That is the intangible connection that I'm talking about. And you just admitted that you're non-empirical, that your mother means more to you. Is it because of some scientific test tube thing, or why is your mom more important?
It's because I have a direct relationship with my mother.
Relationship.
Yes, it's emotional.
Well, you can't define that relationship for me and put it in the test tube for me?
What do test tubes have to do with it?
Because you said if I can define this relationship, I just asked you to define your relationship to your mother and put it in the test tube for me, and you couldn't do it.
There are lots of non-physical things.
Why is your mom more important to you than other humans?
Because she's my mother, dude. All right?
Well, you just asked me to give a definition, and you give a crackpot definition like that.
Hang up on this moron.
It's better than what we're getting from you. So.
All right, look. This is the Atheist Experience. All right. Sorry, Tim, I'd like to cordially invite you to screw off and not call this show again. You don't have anything of interest to say to us, all right? If you just want to call this program and attack us personally, by telling us, that we can't relate to our mothers because we don't believe in these weird flighty things that you believe in, okay, we just have nothing to say to you. If you want to call us up and ask us questions and debate actual relevant issues, that's fine. And Tim has called the show many times before. If you want to call us up and then attack us, tell us that we don't experience this thing that you experience that makes you better than us, and then when we try to get you to define what the thing is, say, oh, I can't do it in a 30-second soundbite. I can't give you a definition. But you guys are contradicting yourselves. You just want to run us around and give us this whole rigmarole. Just go away, man. We have no interest in that, All right, Bill is on line 2.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
All right. Couple of things.
Yes, sir.
A little more. I don't even need 30 seconds for my points.
Go right ahead, sir.
First, on the cloning issue, okay?
Yes.
Ask all these people who are so afraid of it and so against it, ask them if they're also against in vitro fertilization.
A lot of them were.
Okay, but are they saying it should be outlawed now? In other words, everyone who's accepting in vitro fertilization because the genes come from 2 separate entities, but no, it can't come from just one separate entity. It's ridiculous and hypocritical. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, the whole argument of therapeutic versus reproductive, if life is so precious, you would think the reproductive would be the one that's okay.
Well,
I'm just saying, I'm not saying which I'm in favor of or against or whatever. I'm just saying logically, if life is so precious, then they should be gung-ho on it.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't their God creating that life. It's going to be a soulless person that comes into this world and has no morals and everything, you understand. And so that's why it's a bad thing.
Their viewpoint is like if God imbues a human being with a soul and human beings can't do that,
then it's a good thing.
But the thing is, though, with reproductive cloning, there are valid scientific reasons, right, why we shouldn't be doing human reproductive cloning right now. We know from animal experimentation.
Right now, yes, but
exactly.
that's different from doing research on it.
Well, right, but but therapeutic research in terms of like doing stem cell research in terms of looking for various medications, various treatments and illnesses, that's a completely different line, and it doesn't involve, what is thought of when you think of reproductive cloning, which many people misunderstand. They think that it's human beings just making Xerox copies of themselves, and Osama bin Laden will suddenly have this army of 100,000 Osama bin Ladens to attack America with. That's the irrational fear behind human cloning. Right. Nobody ever seems to wonder, why wouldn't you suddenly get all of these cloned Gandhis? Why wouldn't you get all of these wonderful philanthropists being cloned? It always seems to be the evil doers, the bad guys, the villains cloning themselves to take over the world. It's these sci-fi scenarios that don't really have anything to do with reality.
Anyway, the genie was out of the bottle, in my opinion, again, with in vitro fertilization, and this is just a logical progression, which emotionally a lot of people aren't quite getting. And I got another quick one for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay? And that's on the pledge and the use of the word God, and I'm saying, well, it's just an abstract thought. Turn right back around and say, who do you think it is? Why not? Do you think it's Jesus? They say yes. Well, why not say one nation under Jesus? Why not say one nation under Allah? Why not say one nation under Zeus or Jupiter or whoever?
Yeah. And they would basically come back with...
So the point of it just being this non-generic is absolutely not true. And if you go back to the 1954 Act and look at the reasons and so forth, it's obvious.
Yeah. They wanted to sound non-specific, but it's not...
To make it acceptable.
Exactly.
But it's all a smokescreen.
They want to be able to view it as Jesus. They want the Muslim guy to think of it as Allah. They want all the different people to think of it as whatever they want it to be.
But in so doing, the irony there is they're essentially characterized saying, well, your God's just as good as ours then.
Exactly.
Which I don't think is the agenda that most Christians have.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that was it, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks very much. Take care. And just for a second, I wanted quickly to go back and to just say another thing about Tim's call. I'm still a little steamed about that. And look, anybody who knows me knows that I don't, go after callers quite like that all the time, right?
You've been gone a week. We forgive you.
Well, yeah. No, but the thing is I recognize. Okay, to actually address his point, I recognize that anybody. I mean, come on, it's obvious. Emotional experiences, are very much part of our interactive reality. Okay. And the idea that everything, that empiricism simply involves what you can pick up with your hand or see with your eyes. No, empiricism is all about what simply can be experienced. Yeah. That's what empiricism means. It's what can be experienced directly. But to say, that, there are all these intangibles, but I don't want to define the intangibles. Essentially, Tim basically called us to attack us, folks, is why I went after him the way he did. He wasn't really calling to make a point. Okay, he was calling to attack us, and that's fine. We understand on this program that a lot of viewers, especially the more profoundly religious they are going to call us just to do that. That's fine. We're here to discuss issues with people, and we're here to engage in debates. And sometimes these debates get very feisty and very heated, but it's all fun, and that's all part of it, right? But again, if you're just going to call us to be snide and condescending and attack us and tell us that we can't have, because we're atheists, we can't have, real relationships with our mothers, screw off. That's what I'd say. Okay, so anyway, I mean, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to have intelligent discussion and be worthwhile. All right, who's next?
Mike.
I'm being told.
Mike
on 2. Is that it? Yeah, we just took Bill.
We just took Bill.
Yeah, so it's Mike on 2. So we'll go ahead to Mike. Okay. All righty, you're on the air. Thanks for calling.
Let's see, a couple of things. One is that Marilyn Savant.
Yes.
About a year or so ago in the printed paper, one of her articles, somebody asked about the existence of God.
Okay.
And her response was, well, so many people believe in it, how can they all be wrong? Here's one of the smartest people in the world, and she's using a numbers argument as to prove the existence of God.
Yeah. Okay,
She's smart, she's not logical.
Yeah. Just again, we're having some of those funny phone sound problems again. But just to repeat, in case any of the viewers couldn't tell what it was that, hold the thing up again. Let me. Mike. I need to see the names. What Mike just said was that this Marilyn Savant, who's apparently the smartest person in the universe, made essentially a logical fallacy, which is the appeal to popularity, as her excuse for why it is that is there any reason to believe in the existence of a God? And she fell back on the appeal to popularity.
Yeah. Everybody believes it. They can't all be wrong. So
millions of people can be wrong. Though.
Yeah.
That's the
the Earth was flat.
Oh,
at one time.
But there's the whole. But especially when you have something which is the institution of religion, okay, which has actually been has existed for most of human civilization.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that these institutions continue and are passed down repeatedly through generations, and they grow and they spread and they become very, very powerful political institutions. Okay, that to me is a much more sound explanation as to why you have all these. Most people believe in God. Why? Because religion has been with us for ages, telling us that a God exists, and it's only really been recently that most people. There have been unbelievers forever, but, for as long as there's been religion, but it has only been recently within the last 100 years or so that people have been able to just come out and say, well, I doubt these things are true. I'm skeptical about God. I don't really believe there is a God. Be able to say that publicly and not have to deal with prophecy, blasphemy, blasphemy laws.
Yeah.
Actually being thrown in prison for heresy and what have you. So again, just proves that just because somebody has the highest IQ in America doesn't mean that they're all that bright. Anyway, are you still with us, Mike?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're having some more of these funky phone sound problems. But just if you have another question, go ahead and we'll.
The other thing was about the under God in the pledge.
Yes.
I was having a discussion on the internet with some Christians, and they're sort of two-faced. They'll say that there's no problem with it the way it is now with the under God because we're not forced to say that. We could say under no God if we wanted to. We could say under Allah, and it's okay. No one's being forced to say under God. Mm. Then they'll turn around and say, but if the ruling is upheld, and if under God is taken out, they will be prosecuted for saying under God during the pledge.
Yeah.
And they just they're asinine, basically.
Yeah. Again, it's interesting how conservative Christians, even though, well, not all Christians are conservative, but the religious community, the Christian community, although they are clearly in the majority of the American populace, right? When a political issue like this comes up, they suddenly want to characterize themselves as being an oppressed minority in order to gain some sort of political capital. It's like, oh, but if they take under God, they just want to stamp God out from all public life. Yeah. And if you dare to, you dare
to mention God or Jesus anywhere within earshot, then you'll be arrested and thrown in jail.
Yeah, and so they kick up they kick up the fear factor in their believers with this whole Orwellian nightmare of totalitarian America where Christians are all rounded up and. Of course, there's nothing to that at all. Yeah, but again, it's a very effective rhetorical ploy. You can never underestimate the political power of just scaring the crap out of people. Right? I mean, that's just the way it is. So, all right, got anything else for us?
That was it. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks a lot for your call.
Bye-bye.
So, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're still working through some oddball sound problems. They have got this new equipment, and I guess the new equipment meshed with the old equipment is doing funny things. So, you had something?
Yeah, you were mentioning the fact that you can use this to gain popularity and such. I had my hissy fit of the month on the email list a couple days ago. They apparently, every now and then, will have a post on the email list saying that the whole reason why we're going to war with Iraq is because George Bush is religious and he can justify it through means of the Bible somehow. And essentially, that's in their opinion, that's the only reason that we're possibly going to war, is because Bush has, the might of God behind him. And that he apparently just sits around and reads the Bible and, writes policy according to what Leviticus has to say about it. And I just had a complete fit online. I couldn't stop it anymore. Because, yes, is Bush religious? Obviously. If he's religious as he, espouses to be in public, who knows?
Oh, no, I think he very much is.
He very well could be. He could be even more so. Yeah. But essentially, that's kind of beside the point. If he's making policy based on what the Bible has to say, that's a very scary thing. Sure. But I don't think it's reasonable to assume so.
Well, this will be a good time to hold up this issue.
Exactly.
This week,
and this is something I have just seen today, and so I don't know. I haven't read through any of it, but it's the Newsweek.
It's brand new.
Yeah, it's
they're first.
Bush and God.
Yeah. They're
And so apparently it's a whole big thing about how religious he is. And
just letting us. It's the first time I think that a mainstream news, and of course, I think conservatives are going to say, "Oh, well, there's old evil liberal media bashing our godly president." No, it's this is the first time that a really mainstream news outlet has examined the fact that we more or less have a as close to a theocratic president as we've ever had.
But again, I see a lot of on the email list of what's going on is just scaremongering among us. I've seen a lot of posts that say
that is true.
We have a theocratic, president who's now pushing through bills that he has no support for anywhere.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Hysteria can come on all sides, and I've seen people on our email list
who say that eventually atheists are going to be rounded up, and we will be gassed just like the Jews and everything like that.
And that's idiocy, right?
Exactly.
It's paranoia and it's slippery slope stuff. And again, and we encourage people on our mailing list, look, employ critical thinking. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, I've read people on our mailing list try to say that, America's turned into some sort of fascist dictatorship.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't. A fascist dictatorship has a very solid definition of what that is. Okay, and last I checked, elections still take place.
Yeah.
We still have voting. We still have a Congress.
Yeah.
We still have representatives. We still have state and local politicians.
Yeah.
Okay, there's still a constitution. It's not a fascist dictatorship. Just because you think the president is a jerk and you don't like his policies and you're against the war or whatever happens, doesn't make America a fascist dictatorship. Just means you don't like our president. And guess what? 2004, you'll get the chance to vote for somebody else. Okay, that's not being taken away. If America were a fascist dictatorship, it would have been already. Okay, there would be tanks on the streets. Okay, and there'd be curfews, and nobody would be allowed to say we wouldn't be here on the air.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a show.
So So it is true that people, but you're right. Yeah. These insane kind of paranoia and bad arguments can happen on the left as well as the right, and
it's just I haven't seen anybody calling it, and so I just had to go online and just say,
well, that was right. So I encourage people. Atheist. We are supposed to be the people who care what the truth is.
Yeah.
Okay, and we are supposed to be the people who are the ones to employ critical thinking and to be skeptical and to not jump to conclusions about stuff. But that's but that's why our mailing list is a good thing, because it gives us a chance to argue amongst ourselves and
exactly.
And we have very heated arguments amongst ourselves. It's not just with callers.
The last thing that we can say is all atheists agree on everything.
No, not even close. Not even close. Okay, so who is next? I'm told. Should I take? I'm supposed to take Charlie now. And you're on the air, Charlie.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Ashley. Long-time watcher, first-time caller.
Well, thanks for watching and calling.
I wanted to address what Tim was talking about a little bit, and he was talking about putting relationships in test tubes.
Yeah.
Right? But anyway, there's lots of social sciences that study the way humans interact with each other and their world. You've got sociology, psychology, anthropology, and then you've also got the scientific world studying how we take in information.
Yeah.
Right? Neurology, all those kinds of things. So in a sense, you can put relationships in a test tube.
Right. But every science is not. See, Tim thinks, right, that all sciences are physical sciences, right?
Right.
If you can't, if it's not a rock, okay,
You can't study it, and therefore it doesn't exist in your world.
But again, remember though, I think Tim just called to attack us, right? I mean, he wasn't. I mean, we do get callers who are Christian and who are confused about scientific issues, and we've had discussions with them, and we've given them resources and everything like that, and they've been very fruitful calls. Okay.
Right. But also, you said he was asking you about, is your mom more special to you? That business. Well, of course, your mom's more special to you as an individual because, in addition to her just being your mom, which is kind of a vague statement, she nurtured you. She has, she has a reason to nurture you because you're her genetic descendant. Yeah. You're going to carry on her genes, and we have a drive to do that. And then you, in return, form an emotional bond with her, which is why you love her, and we form these emotional bonds with people. You have an advantage to create relationships with people around you because they help you, and in order for them to help you, you've got to help them.
Right.
So all these things, have a basis in science and social science, and so.
Yeah, and of course, it's common sense, right? These are not things that you should have to explain to any smart person, right? I mean, we know that
just because you can't take a yardstick to it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, there was something more than just the fact that she's my mom.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
right?
but to me personally, that's the only explanation I need. Okay, and at that point, and the reason that, and again, I leapt on Tim, right? I mean, and it was.
But I could see why maybe he would see that as not a very good answer. So I just thought maybe we should throw something out for him.
It's all the explanation I need. But again, the reason that that we've heard from Tim many times before, and he hasn't just called to attack us quite as heavily as he did today. Okay. Earlier, he's known as Prophecy Tim because he calls, and in the past he's always tried to argue for biblical prophecies coming true and what have you, and we're just like, sorry. But this was the first time that he's really called and just sort of gone on the offensive personally.
Right.
Okay, so this was it was obvious to me by the time we got to that point in the conversation that he had just called to ridicule us and to just insult us and tell us that because we don't believe in these vague, intangible things that he doesn't want to define for us.
Right.
That we can't have relationships with our mother, and then when we call him on it, he wants to worm out of it and say, "Oh, well, I didn't say those things. Of course, that's what he meant, and he knows that's what he meant." So, he was just being dishonest and he called to attack us. So that's why I didn't go into these very logical explanations that you're going into, and we've just actually discussed this many times before on the show, which is the secular bases for things like morality and ethics, which can be directly traced to the things you just described, right? The whole that it is advantageous for people to cooperate with one another. It's not advantageous for people not to cooperate with one another. And this is how we have been able to learn to develop what we now use as our moral guidelines for life, which is, cooperative behaviors such as getting along and being pals are better than non-cooperative behaviors like violence, like crime, like murder, like anything that could be defined as immoral. There are rational, if you like, empirical bases for what we call our morals. And we've gone into these discussions many times in the past.
Exactly.
And we've brought up the points that you've brought up. Okay.
Right. So just again, relationships are not intangible. I don't want anybody to think that. Well, I can't believe he said it, but
Well, that's how he thinks. I mean, this is he was just again, I don't want to talk about a guy behind his back any more than we've already done, but that was his that's what he came up with to give him an excuse to call the show today and attack us.
Okay, well, so
I'll let you guys move on. That's part of the Atheist Experience, just dealing with that kind of thing every now and again. But we're glad you called and illustrated some points for us.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching and calling. Okay, and now we have Cary on line 1. All right, Cary, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, I just had a question. I've never seen this show before, and I was wondering, is it making that noise?
Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah. We can still understand you. Go ahead and try talking to us.
And I'm not sure what an atheist is or what y'all believe in. I was just kind of wondering.
Okay.
I didn't know what the show was about.
All right. An atheist is simply a person who doesn't believe in any gods or deities.
Okay.
That's what an atheist is.
So where does the morality come from?
Well, in our view, morality is simply based upon reason and practical concerns. Like as we said we were explaining to the last caller.
Or he was actually explaining to us.
Or he was explaining to us, and we got into the whole discussion that it is simply rational to be moral. It is rational because it's advantageous for people to cooperate, cooperative behavior, and any sociologist will tell you this. That's advantageous, and for us to cooperate with one another is beneficial now, not just to us as individuals,
but
to the species
morality
as a whole.
as in what's right and what's wrong.
Sure.
Well,
where does it come from, though?
The exact same thing. Yeah. It is morally good for me not to hurt other people.
Okay.
But it is also practically good for me not to hurt other people, because if I do, chances are they're going to want to try and hurt me back. Okay. They're going to want to try and stop me from hurting them in some way, and that's going to cause me problems. So if I don't hurt anyone, that's morally good because it is practically good. Yeah. Because it's a good thing for me. They'll help me out if I help them.
Yeah. Yeah. What I think has, and again, I'm not a sociologist by profession, so but in my estimation, what became what became known as our ethics or our morals were derived from these practical, just learning through behaviors and through just the early human civilization. That's just how it all developed.
So we developed the morality.
Yeah, yes. It was not something that just occurred to people overnight. I think it was from many years of civilization, human beings have. And remember, there are things that were thought a couple hundred years ago to be morally acceptable, even 50 years ago that were thought to be morally acceptable that are not thought to be morally acceptable now. So I think that the development of morals is a constant learning process that human beings as a species are undergoing.
Okay.
Like back in the 1950s, it was considered morally acceptable to segregate the races, right? Blacks in here and blacks at the back of the bus. And yeah. But today, that's not considered morally acceptable.
I don't think that was a moral issue.
Well, I think it was defended that way back then.
To some people, it was.
Back then, it was very much of a moral issue, and
also,
we've learned over time now, over the decades, that that's not really the best for us all. Yeah. So
morality comes from.
If a person was to think one thing is right and another person is to think that it's wrong, who is the writer?
I think that what would have to happen is those two people coming together and reaching some sort of consensus. And we see this all the time. That's what politics is, right? Okay. We have like us over here. We have our little coalition saying we think we need to go to war with Iraq in order to depose Saddam Hussein. And then on the other end of the there's people in the UN saying, no, we don't think that war is justified. So what's having to happen? They're having to come to the table and reach resolutions and agree upon stuff. And so it's, so there are people, for example, we have a Christian president who is very much committed to this idea that war with Iraq is necessary. However, there are other Christians, such as the Pope and the leaders of, in fact, his own Methodist Church, saying, no, this is not moral for us to be doing this. It's not moral or godly for us to be going to war. So there are some differences. So I think this is just, if you have people who have differing ideas on the way things should be and what's right or what's wrong, then that's where the cooperation happens.
My morality and your morality would probably be contradicted by each other's morality, right?
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that one would contradict or negate the other.
Well,
again,
if I think that
let's give me an example of.
Let's say if I think that killing someone is all right, and you think that it's wrong, then we go by. I guess we go by the majority's vote.
Well, no, I think that in that example, I think that what we'd have to do is discuss. Okay, my first question to you.
Do we all know? But do you think we all know that killing is wrong?
Well,
go ahead. Let me put it this way. Let's say you say it's right, I say it's wrong.
Okay.
all of my relatives agree that it's wrong, and if you do it, they're going to whoop you.
Okay, I understand.
Now
that.
what's moral?
Well, no, but now hang on.
I understand that, but
would you agree that it's still okay?
Inside everyone, we have morals, right? We have things that
because we have lived we are a social species. We have lived together for millennia,
and we're all influenced by our culture.
Incredible amounts of time.
Okay.
And so we have lived together for a long time, and so I don't have to wake up in the morning and think, should I kill somebody today? Well, if I do, that's going to be bad.
saying.
And so yes, it is kind of ingrained. It is just an instinct. But it's because we've had to live with these rules and we've lived in society for so long. It's second nature.
As in ingrained, you mean when we're born, we are born with morals?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean they have to be learned, right? I mean children are not morally competent.
Well, he just said that it's ingrained.
Well, it's ingrained in our
through
culture.
living in society.
So
it's ingrained in the culture.
If I grew up on an island.
Well, let me answer your question though. Let me answer your original question though. Let's say. You want to say, I think that it's morally right to let's say killing's morally right.
I don't want y'all to think I'm...
But I mean, this is just for the sake of example. This is just for the sake of discussion. Okay, well, my first thing I would do to you is I would say, okay, explain to me what's going on here. You say that you want... What are you talking about a specific person?
No.
Are you talking about a situation? What type of killing are you referring to? Are you talking about, say, killing during the time of war? Are you saying it's killing in order to defend your home from an attacker?
Let's say.
Like I would have to ask you.
No reason. There's no motive. There's no reason to kill someone. Just if you kill them.
Okay,
is it morally wrong?
My argument against that would be that doing anything for no reason, much less killing people, is by definition irrational behavior. And I would say that it's wrong to be irrational.
Okay, so you're irrational.
I mean, now if you wanted to kill a guy,
losing your temper is an irrational behavior.
Well, sure, but losing your temper doesn't always lead to killing somebody.
So killing is bad, right?
But let's say though that let's say you had a different an argument going. Let's say you were to say, well, I think that I should be allowed to kill people, to kill a person who invaded my home and was threatening my wife and child with a big old butcher knife.
Yeah.
Now, in that case, I would have to say, all right, you're defending your family, and I think that you should have a right to defend your family in that manner. So in that particular instance, I would say that killing some lunatic who attacked your home with weapons, I can see a justification for, and I would agree with you. But to just go around wantonly doing mayhem for no reason, there's nothing rational about that, because first off, what advantage are you gaining from it? There's nothing advantageous for you to do that act. There's no. I mean, what's the advantage? What would be the advantage to just wanton mayhem? I mean, remember.
Well, in some people's mind, I mean, I guess they just their morality is kind of corrupt.
There you go. It's corrupt. They have got a screwed up idea of how things work, and those people, what do we do? We call them criminals, and we put them away in prison.
Okay, I mean, their morality was unjust, but doesn't mean that they didn't have a sense of morality.
Well, I guess you could say that one's morals could become corrupted by circumstances. Like you could be brainwashed into a cult. You could be
your morality comes again from living in society.
Yeah.
If your society consists of two people because you grew up on a desert island, then your morality is going to be significantly different than the person who grows up in New York City. So when you get to New York City, you're going to be a little bit out of whack.
Yeah.
You're not going to agree with everybody else.
We should all blame our bad behaviors on society.
No, we shouldn't, because
well, you can learn from society.
Wait a minute, because we shouldn't blame our bad behaviors on society, because remember, for example, in our society, the moral precepts that are ingrained in our culture, allow for a certain set of cooperative behaviors.
Well, who ingrained that morality?
Well, we did as a consensus, right?
There was no one person.
As a group?
Yes. It is
as
everybody who lives together.
Again, it's a learning process. I mean, I don't understand why this is so difficult to comprehend, right? I mean, it's just under the understanding that...
let me explain. It seems like...
Okay, then why do you have a problem with this?
It seems like you're saying that morality comes from within, except if you are behaving irrational, then it came from a bad source.
No. We're saying all moral precepts. Everybody is born. Okay, I don't see why I should have to go this 20 times. But here's the thing: none of us live in isolation.
Okay.
We're all part of a culture.
Okay.
And that culture influences us.
I agree.
Okay. So the culture is what, over time and over thousands of years of civilization, has determined.
So our morality comes from our culture.
Yeah, and our culture is us. Okay. I mean, it's a feedback.
So if I kill somebody, we all did it.
No,
you did it.
Okay,
I did it, but I learned it from my culture.
No, well, wait. Are you living in a culture? Wait, are you saying that this culture we're living in condones meaningless murder?
Well, I don't know. There's lots of.
Well, what do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? Is murder illegal or not?
It's illegal.
Can you go to jail for murder or not?
Yes, it's illegal. So
then why would it be illegal? Why would it be illegal?
Excuse me?
Why would it be illegal?
Because it's immoral.
So there you go.
Because
so
there
then
are bad reasons for it.
So everything illegal is immoral.
One at a time. So if our culture has decided that murder is an immoral act, and you commit murder, you cannot say it's the culture's fault, because the culture has already decided. You have decided to go against the moral precepts that are ingrained in our culture for practical reasons, and they're ingrained in our culture for practical reasons. So it is all on you if you choose to go against what
But why
we
would
have
I
accepted.
choose to murder someone?
You tell me.
Wait a minute, tell me something.
Good morals.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up for a minute.
Okay. I have one more question.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Where do you think we get our morals from?
I think we get it from a power that's much higher than we.
Okay, and how is that possible?
If we are born into a world...
Wait a minute. How is that possible? Well, first off, how is it possible? And one thing, how would getting our morals from a power higher than we, and I assume you mean God, right? Let's not mince words. How would that be any different from getting it from people? I mean, getting it from each other as a culture. Why would that have any different of a basis? Wouldn't God have to have an understanding of the reasons why certain behaviors are moral or not? Or do you think that morals are just whatever God says goes?
Now, we grow up in a world that is totally immoral. Do you agree?
No, I don't.
No?
I do not.
Do you think it's a perverse world?
I don't think it's a perverse world,
Do you think it's totally moral?
I don't think it's totally moral. I think that we human beings are flawed individuals, but I think that over civilization,
on the average,
the history of our civilization is one of developing cultures, and moral precepts become rooted in those cultures. So I think obviously people have moral flaws. We see it all the time. But overall, I think that human civilization, which is the act of people coming together to live in a cooperative manner, has, as part of just the very nature of what it is, led to a development of moral precepts under which you can live. Okay. So that's how, and I think any sociologist would probably agree with me on that. So again, explain to me how it makes, how does this higher power know what's moral or not any better than you do? How does this higher power know what's moral?
Because it was given to us.
But wait, no, I'm not asking because it's given to us. How does the higher power know?
You think of morality as it being ingrained. It is ingrained from birth. We know right from wrong. We choose to do right. And our society has chosen to govern over what is right.
Yeah, but I'm asking
what is wrong.
But I'm asking you specifically about
what is wrong. We will be punished, and we will.
Cary, hang on. I just want to ask you one thing, though, and I'm sorry, Ashley. But again, I wasn't asking about that. I want to know about the higher power. How does it know what's right or wrong? You said that morality was given. You think it was given to us by a higher power. Okay. How does the higher power know what's moral?
How does it know what's moral?
How does it know what's moral so that it's able to give these morals to us?
If you created a vehicle and something went wrong with it, would you not know what was wrong with it?
If
you made it?
What does that have?
That's not a moral question.
So are you saying that that murder is bad because God says so?
If you put water in your gas tank, will it run?
It doesn't matter. That's beside the point.
Yeah, you're dodging here. I want to know how God knows what's moral. How does he know what's moral any more than, how does he know?
Because he created us.
But what's that got to do with knowing what's right or wrong?
Okay. He created something.
Right.
And he created us to live
So are you saying that God just made morals?
Hold on. In harmony, like you said, we should all live together and agree upon things. And that's how he created this world. And when we don't, our moralities are corrupt because we collide.
Okay, do you think that it's moral, then? Would you say if that's what you think is the basis of morals, and I'm sorry I'm frustrating you, but do you think it's moral to threaten someone with violence if you tell them to do something and they don't do it?
Do I think it's moral to threaten them?
Do you think threatening someone with violence if they don't do something you want them to do is moral? Would you describe that as a moral behavior?
Give me an example.
Anything. Say, do this, or else, if you don't do it,
I'm going to whip your butt if you don't clean your room.
I'll inflict violence upon you. Do you think
if I'm talking to my daughters,
let's say
your room, I'm going to spank your butt. That's a violent act.
Well, let's say a terrorist. Let's say a terrorist says, meet our demands, or we'll blow up the World Trade Center.
Well, is that committing murder?
Well, do you think it's just give me a yes or no answer? Do you think it's moral behavior or not?
I don't think it's moralistic to kill anyone. No.
Okay. Well, here is. I assume you're a Christian, sir.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I am.
Okay. Here's what your God does. Your God says to the human race, "Worship me, or you will spend an eternity being tortured in hell."
That's somewhat what he says.
Well, no, it's not somewhat what he says.
That's exactly what he says.
He says, "Here's your choice: become a Christian, okay, or you suffer an eternity in hell."
Well,
okay. Now,
it's not just that it's.
Is that a moral behavior? Is that moral behavior to say worship me or be tortured? Is that moral?
No, he says acknowledge that I do exist, and if you do not acknowledge it, and he's given us plenty.
Well, I think it's more than acknowledging.
It's a lot more than just acknowledgement.
I mean, you have to.
God has said you have to worship Him.
Don't you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior? Don't you have to believe in the resurrection?
That's true. That's acknowledging.
Don't you have to be a Christian?
That's acknowledging. Well, all Christian means is little Christ.
And isn't the penalty for not doing these things an eternity of torture in hell?
That's your choice. We all have.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's my choice or not. The fact is, this ultimatum has been presented.
Can I ask you a question?
No. I want you to answer mine. Do you think that it's moral to tell someone, here is a thing that you must do?
Yeah.
If you fail to do this thing, the punishment will be an eternity of torture. Do you think it's moral to present someone with that option?
I will answer that question if you will answer mine.
Okay.
Do you have children?
Look, quit. You're dodging.
No.
It's beside the point.
It's beside the point.
It's beside the point.
Okay, let's say I do.
Okay, let's say you do.
All right.
If your child does not do what you ask them to do, will you punish them?
I'm not going to torture them for eternity.
There's a big difference between a spank on the butt or say go up to your room and no dinner tonight versus burn for all eternity.
Yeah, there's a big difference between saying you can't watch your favorite television show and you get tortured for all eternity.
Would you go, okay, I'm going to count to 3. 1.
Okay,
2,
well,
3.
I answered your question. Now, do you think that submitting people to an eternity of torture for not worshiping you is a moral act on the part of your God?
I do think that...
You think it's moral for God to threaten people with an eternity of torture?
Let me answer. I do think that God is counting to 3. And when he gets to 3... No, hold on.
So here,
what is counting to 3? Okay,
hold on.
Let's say let's say I stick a gun in Ashley's face and say, I'll count to 3 before shooting you. Does that make my shooting him any more moral just because I counted to 3?
If you was to shoot him, then you would have helped send him to an eternity.
Okay, so, all right. I think I get where we're coming from. Look, we're fresh out of time, but we appreciate your call. Try us back next time.
One more question.
We're out of time. We're flat out of time. Why don't you email it to us, all right? Take care. Thanks a lot. We are done with the show. We apologize to our other callers. I know we had several on the list we didn't get to, but that's what TV at atheist-community.org is for. And if you also go to atheist-community.org, you can read a little essay I wrote in the library section called Christians' Moral Blind Spot, which is all about exactly what we just talked, this conversation that we just had with nice gentleman on the program elucidates, which is that Christians want to claim that they have this God who is the source of our morals, and yet they won't acknowledge that what is essentially a terrorist act, setting someone an ultimatum. It's not a choice, it's an ultimatum to say, do this or be punished with violence. It's no more moral when their God does it than when a human being does it. And for them to try to say, oh, well, it's okay when God does it, that means
you have a choice.
They have a moral blind spot when it comes to their own God's actions and their own belief system. Anyway, we're fresh out of time. It's been a feisty show today. Yep. I won't be here next week to snap at callers. But
I will.
Anyway, but Ashley will be here. Thanks very much to our crew and everyone. And remember, theists, we don't hate you.